Telangana, and also we invite the future partners for our state.
Hyderabad has become the world's preferred destination for GCC. Together, let us make it the world's hub for integrated life sciences. Telangana is rising. Join the rise.
I would like to welcome all the partners for the state of Telangana, and also we invite the future partners for our state.
Hyderabad has become the world's preferred destination for GCC. Together, let us make it the world's hub for integrated life sciences. Telangana is rising. Join the rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, I humbly request you all to take your seats. We're just about to begin in a few moments. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and esteemed participants, on behalf of BioAsia, I, Sabrina, welcome you all to the Day 2 of BioAsia 2026, the 23rd edition of Premier Life Sciences and Healthcare Forum in Asia. Before we begin today's session, I would like to take this opportunity and thank our sponsors for supporting BioAsia 2026. Meanwhile, we'll have some more friends of yours joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, let us thank our event partners, MSME, DPIIT, our industry host, Amgen, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Laurus Labs, Eli Lilly, Novartis, Sai Life Sciences, MSD, Sanofi, and Tata Consultancy Services. Thank you for your support. We'd like to extend our thank you to our industry co-host, Arajan, Curatech, New Vantage Innovation Parks, and EPAM. Our networking reception sponsors, Solix Technologies. CEO Conclave sponsors, Olivier Wyman. We would also like to thank our business partnering sponsors, Tata Consultancy Services. Let us extend our thank you to our corporate sponsors, Sartorius, Viva, Next Quest Forward, Syngene Medtronics, Takeda, Gland Pharma, Milton Yee Biotech, Bharat Biotech, MSN Laboratories, Tridence, Thermo Fisher Scientific, and K. Raheja. Our session sponsors were Ernst & Young, Parthenon, Boston Consulting Group, Health Arc, Bristol Squibb, and KPMG. Our state partners, Andhra Pradesh Economic Development Board, Gujarat State Biotechnology Mission, and Government of Karnataka. Our startup stage partners, BIRAC, and our badge sponsors, Lonza. Associate sponsors, Biological E Limited, Natco, Tamarind, AbbVie, Virchow, Roche, Ferring, Deep Forest, Jubilant Biosys, Fin Partners, and BSV. Once again, let us start today's day with a huge round of applause for our sponsors. Our energies will also be tested. Yes, thank you. Over the past 22 editions, BioAsia had participations of luminaries from 100 plus countries, 25,000 plus B2B, B2R, and R2R meetings, 250 plus letter of intents, bilateral cooperation agreements, and MOUs, over 30 knowledge papers and policy recommendations have been unveiled in the last 22 years of BioAsia. Altogether, the state has received trade and investment to an extent of the USD 3.3 billion. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to the Day 2 of BioAsia 2026, where we continue to explore breakthrough innovations, transformative strategies, and collaborative opportunities, shaping the global life sciences and healthcare ecosystems. Yesterday, we witnessed insightful discussions, groundbreaking perspectives, and inspiring leadership from the global experts. Today, we build on that momentum with another power-packed lineup of keynote addresses, panel discussion, and interactive sessions, featuring industry pioneers and policymakers. A special welcome to our distinguished dignitaries, esteemed speakers, industry leaders, and delegates who have joined us from all across the world. Your presence here is a testament to the shared commitment towards accelerating advancements in life sciences, digital health, and clinical innovation. So ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let's begin an exciting Day 2 of BioAsia 2026. To set the tone for today's discussion, we have the privilege of hearing from a renowned leader who has been at the forefront of innovation in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage Ms. Medaline Ro, Executive Vice President, Head of Business Operations, Sanofi, France, to deliver her plenary address. Ma'am, I was not satisfied with the welcome you got on stage. So let me try that again. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Medaline Ro. Over to you, ma'am.
Well, what a wonderful morning. Welcome. It's great to see you all meeting so many of our friends in the life science industry. I'm really delighted to be here with you today at BioAsia in Hyderabad. It's been an incredibly remarkable week for us, as we've already been spending the week here in the city. On Monday, we inaugurated the second phase of our global Hyderabad hub, and if you saw the press this week, you definitely couldn't have missed this milestone. I think we may need to switch the slides. It is also a very special moment for me personally to be here representing Sanofi as we look ahead to International Women's Day in a couple of weeks, which this year embraces the inspiring Give to Gain motto. As we anticipate celebrating female leadership in Sanofi globally, here in India, and all across the life science industry, I'm particularly proud that our Hyderabad hub is led by such a strong female leader, Meenal Dugal, whose vision and dedication exemplifies the transformative power of women in healthcare innovation. Thank you. Okay. Today, as an organization, we are on an incredibly exciting journey. We have a very bold ambition. We want to become the first biopharma company powered by AI at scale. So here we are applying our deep understanding of the immune system to invent medicines and vaccines that treat and protect millions of people around the world. But achieving that ambition requires, of course, not just adopting new technologies. It also means we need to rethink how we work, modernizing our foundations, building new capabilities, and creating the operational backbone that can truly enable innovation. And that is exactly why Hyderabad is so important to us. Here in Hyderabad, we have built a unique ecosystem that spans our full value chain, bringing together talent, digital expertise, science, and execution power in one place. This hub is not only supporting our transformation, it is really shaping the future of Sanofi. Hyderabad gives us scale, the capabilities, and the momentum to solve the challenges of tomorrow, especially as we accelerate our journey and ambition in AI. And that's where my journey and the journey of business operation really comes to life in Sanofi. What some may once have called a mission impossible has become a bold mission for us, and we're delivering on it with a real impact and real results. So what exactly did we set out to achieve in Sanofi? Firstly, we want to contribute significantly to Sanofi's growth with allocating 50% of our resources to innovation. This isn't just about R&D spending, it's also about creating an organization that can move faster, launch better, and scale innovation across everything we do. Second, we also want to become the first biopharma company which is powered by artificial intelligence at scale, not AI in pockets or AI as an experiment, AI really embedded in how we work every single day. And then thirdly, we also want to enable to halve the time from discovery to therapy. Think about what that means for our patients. What used to take a decade could potentially take just 5 years, and that's literally life-changing. Now, when we look at what it could take to achieve this ambition, we realized we needed to build something fundamentally different for the company. We needed to create what I call, and most of my leadership team calls, the catalyst for modernization, an organization that could pull together capabilities across the enterprise, drive standards, embed AI, and scale at pace. And that's what business operation, this wonderful group here in the front, is today. 7,000 Sanofians across 55 countries and 5 GCCs, including Hyderabad, Budapest, Bogota, Kuala Lumpur, and Barcelona. We're not just a traditional GBS covering corporate functions. We're a multidisciplinary team covering commercial excellence, medical support, manufacturing and supply capabilities, and the corporate function scope. But of course, an ambition doesn't work without execution behind it. So I want to show you how we think about that. Sanofi's modernization journey is built around 6 key acceleration opportunities across the full value chain, and they're listed here on the screen. What I love about this framework is that it's not sequential. These priorities reinforce each other. When we modernize our foundation, we enable better AI. When we embed AI, we can launch faster. When we focus on talent, we drive adoption. These 6 priorities work together, but AI is the thread that runs through all of them. Let me now show you how we structured this approach and how we communicate about this in our organization. Our AI strategy is built on 3 distinct pillars, and each, of course, serves a very different purpose. The first pillar is expert AI. This is really about massive computing power, machine learning, and trained algorithms. In R&D, of course, we're using expert AI to accelerate research processes from weeks to hours. What we get very excited about as employees is snackable AI, because this is really about democratizing data across our organization. And the last pillar is generative AI. This is about streamlining processes and improving productivity. What's critical here is that all 3 pillars follow our RAISE framework. RAISE stands for Responsible AI at Sanofi for Everyone. We're not just moving fast, we're also focusing on moving responsibly. And when we started this journey, there was, of course, skepticism. People ask, is it safe? Is it responsible, and these are exactly the right questions. They're questions we've been asking ourselves from the very first day. And that's why governance isn't an afterthought. It's built into everything we do. I want to share a short video from our presence at VivaTech in Paris last year. For me, this captures our AI ambition in action. All of the AI solutions you'll see were built with very clear purpose: to augment human capability, not to replace it. Let's go.
AI will be in every step of our value chain.
I think what's unique in Sanofi is we put AI into the hands of every employee.
What AI helps us to do is really to collapse all of that data and give us insights that allow us to make better decisions so we can optimize our processes and really improve the quality, the reliability, and the speed of delivery of medicines.
You can have efficient resource allocation.
It also allows us to go deeper in the research and simulate earlier.
What is very important for Sanofi is that's also robust and safe, and we are accountable for outcomes. So how we treat with AI in a responsible manner, in a clear governance framework, is super important.
Patients will get the drug faster.
AI will be in every step of our value chain, helping shorten time, improve probability of success, being more pertinent to patients, and reaching the right patient at the right time.
Faster,
Further,
And all together. Thank you. So what you just saw isn't science fiction. It's what we're doing today, and you can see many of the folks who are behind this in Sanofi. And it's being done by teams across our organization, including many of our colleagues in our hub locations like Hyderabad, who are at the forefront of this innovation. Now, I know some of you may be thinking about the scale of change this represents. So I wanted to share some headline numbers with you on how we're actually making this happen on the ground. Embracing AI thoughtfully and responsibly requires a deep engagement with the organization. 96,000 trainings were completed by Sanofians on AI and responsible AI practices. 70,000 Sanofians using Concierge, our internal and safe and secure enterprise GBT. 25,000 Sanofians using snackable AI solution for daily insights and data. 10,000 Sanofians are engaged through our I in AI communications and training, and 7,000 Sanofians engage through our spread of data and AI products and platforms. So these aren't just adoption numbers, they really represent a fundamental shift in how we work. So let me briefly zoom you back to our ambition here in Hyderabad and why so many of us from Sanofi are here this week. When we set out to become the first biopharma company powered by AI at scale, we realized something fundamental. You can't build transformative AI on a fragmented foundation. You need a backbone, and our GCC model here is the backbone. We made a very strategic choice to bring critical capabilities in-house across our 5 GCCs. We call them hubs in Sanofi, with a set of principles. This wasn't about outsourcing or offshoring. It was about building proprietary expertise that becomes our competitive advantage in Sanofi. We also completed this in lightning speed, a 2-year transformation that would typically take companies 4 to 5 years. We now have a follow the sun model, which means work can continue 24/7 across time zones. Speed matters a lot to us because patients are waiting. And we have 7,000 Sanofians across countries and hubs with a breadth of capabilities enabling us to create appealing career paths across the entire pharma value chain. The ability to scale these capabilities is based on business needs, whether it's supporting our upcoming launches, pipeline shifts, or market changes as we're experiencing them. This operational resilience is what allows us to be bold. And yes, there are, of course, cost efficiencies, but here's what matters to us. With every euro that's saved, we can reinvest into innovation and AI. We measure success in patient impact, not just in cost reduction. So for us, these aren't just principles on a slide, it's what we live every day in our hubs. So let me show you what that means in action in our hub here in Hyderabad. The story of this wonderful capability center that we've built in Hyderabad is a perfect example of how we're building the operational foundation for our AI-powered transformation. We have 3 pillars of our Hyderabad success. What makes this GCC truly distinctive is the breadth and depth of expertise we've assembled. It's the caliber of talent which is exceptional. More than 50% of our colleagues hold master degrees or higher, including PhDs and MDs. And this isn't about volume, it's really about the deep expertise. We've built strong partnerships with prestigious universities in Hyderabad through our early talent program, which we saw come to life this week, creating a sustainable pipeline for future leaders. We're also investing heavily into developing our people. Courses on data, AI, digital fluency ensure that our teams stay at the cutting edge. Intercultural effectiveness is very important and critical when you're running a global operation. And we've embedded a continuous improvement mindset that we call BOOM, the Business Operation Operating Model, really mobilizing teams around how we improve and disrupt the work. Business partnering capabilities, of course, ensure our teams understand the strategic context of everything they do. And then largely, the growth story here has been absolutely remarkable. We've grown from just 500 employees in 23 to more than 3,800 Sanofians today. We inaugurated our hub in July 24, and this Monday, as I mentioned during the intro, we were celebrating another inauguration of our expansion. I'm thrilled to share, of course, that this expansion has grown our capacity from approximately 2,600 to close to 5,000 employees. We're adding over 2.7 lakh square meters of state-of-the-art workspace backed by a multi-hundred million investment. This positions, of course, Hyderabad as one of Sanofi's largest talent concentrations globally, and proudly one of the top 3 pharma GCCs in India. And India's exceptional talent pool in digital innovation, AI, and data science is truly instrumental in accelerating our transformation and advancing our mission. This foundation, the talent, the capabilities, the scale, is what helps us to drive AI use cases that are transforming our operations. So let me briefly sum up with a very important quote. This is a quote from our Chief Digital Officer, Emmanuel Frenahard, and captures the philosophy perfectly. We believe AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. Let me be very direct, what you're seeing at Sanofi. We're not replacing people with AI. We're building a hybrid workforce. We're augmenting human capability, not eliminating it. What this means in practice, of course, is we're using AI to make, for example, our regulatory processes faster, and it's about getting life-changing medicines to patients faster. When we started building business operation, we obviously didn't start from scratch. Some capabilities existed, but they were very fragmented across different business units. We lacked standards, we lacked consistency. As we embark on this transformation, we realized we needed different types of profiles. So we needed people who could do analytics, who could handle complex omni-channel orchestration, and really a deep expertise in their respective fields. Now we're in a very good position to master complexities, for example, in our go-to-market strategies. So let me briefly bring this back to where I started and to the fundamental premise of today's conversation. The next wave of biopharma innovation won't come solely from the lab. For decades, our industry has measured progress by what's happening in R&D, and rightfully so. The science is extraordinary. But here's what we're learning at Sanofi. The breakthroughs of tomorrow will be defined not just by what we discover, but by how quickly and effectively we can bring those discoveries to patients. This requires a fundamental shift from lab-only innovation to operational innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roche. We would need you for a few more moments on the stage. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing those invaluable insights, and we want you to remember today for a very long time, for which we want to present a small memento to you. So for which I humbly request Dr. Ajit Shetty to please join me on stage, former chairman of Janssen Pharmaceuticals and BioAsia International Advisory Board, to please do the honors and present a small memento to Ms. Roche. Please take a center stage. We'll take, sir, I request you to give the memento. Thank you, sir, for doing the honors. And now we transition into a series of engaging panel discussions that will be bringing together global leaders, innovators, policymakers to explore the future of life sciences and healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session explores the next generation life sciences, GCCs, which are being built around intelligence, innovation, and integration. As GCCs evolve from cost centers into strategic growth engines, the panel examines how AI-enabled R&D, modern digital architectures, and new operating models are repositioning them as core contributors to the global innovation strategies. Now, as we proceed to our session, I would humbly request our moderator for the session, Dr. Purav Gandhi, the founder and CEO of Health Arc, to please join us on stage. You can be generous. Yes, let's welcome, yeah. I would also like to call upon our distinguished panelist, Mr. Badri Srinivasan, Group CEO, Unilab Switzerland, to please join us. Mr. Anton Groom, Chief AI Officer, MSD USA. Mr. Syed Naveed, Executive Officer and CTO, Olympus Corporation, Japan. Mr. Sanjay Patel, Senior Vice President and Global Head of DD&T Innovation Capability Solution and Services, Takeda, Switzerland. Mr. Som Chattopadhyay, Senior Vice President, Global Business Solution and National Executive, Amgen, USA. And Ms. Gail Horwood, Chief Marketing and Customer Experience Officer, Novartis, USA. Before we proceed further, we are honored to invite and request a distinguished leader whose AI leadership has accelerated MSD's global advancement in data-driven drug discovery. I would request Mr. Anton Groom, our Chief AI Officer, MSD USA, to please share his insight on this session before we dive into the panel.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, opening this panel session. I was raised in South Africa, so I grew up playing cricket, and I was an opening batsman for every team that I played in. And this experience of coming out here to open the session kind of reminds me of that feeling of walking out into the middle to open the batting. Walking out in the oval, taking guard. Although I have to admit, I never played in the stadium with a jumbotron as big as this. So it can be quite intimidating, that experience of coming out and having to open. But having a really strong batting lineup behind you always made it easier. And the lineup that we've got on the stage here today is really impressive, and I'm excited to have them as partners in this session today. So we are at a transformative moment where AI and digital technologies are fundamentally reshaping how we discover, develop, and deliver medicines. But real transformation begins long before we talk about molecules or language models. It starts with how we lead differently in the time of AI. As leaders, it's how we set priorities, make choices, and guide our organizations through change, ethically, boldly, and always with patients at the center. Traditionally, discovery has relied on manual literature review, sequential wet lab testing, and long experimental cycles. But that world has changed. At MSD, since implementing AI and in silico computer-based simulations, we've doubled the number of molecules that we have in discovery, helping us move through our pipeline more effectively and more efficiently. We're establishing an AI-assisted pipeline across molecules from vaccine antigens to cholesterol solutions to immuno-oncology candidates and more. We're developing AI agents and new software to streamline the production of key trial protocols and minimize labor-intensive tasks like clinical documentation and quality review. And the impact of AI extends well beyond R&D. In manufacturing, we leverage AI to create efficiencies and to speed up access to our patients for medicines and solutions. In commercial, we're designing AI models to tailor messaging for physicians and for patients based on behavioral insights. So to achieve all this, we focused on three foundational elements. Firstly, a robust and secure digital backbone of modern, scalable platforms. These platforms drive our speed, our efficiency, and our innovation. And this includes things like an enterprise-scale, provider-agnostic, model-serving platform and a secure agentic AI platform. Secondly, we've invested in a frictionless data environment and an AI-ready semantic layer that ensures the right data is available to the AI and analytics systems that need it. Third, we have a diverse and dedicated team of AI experts with skills ranging from AI safety to AI engineering and driving AI adoption. We firmly believe that our diversity drives our innovation, and our global talent landscape in tech centers around the globe, including here in Hyderabad, is key to our success. But ultimately, to deliver on patient outcomes that we strive for, on top of these foundations, requires us to lead differently. We need to understand this exciting AI technology and where and how to apply it across our businesses. Also, we need to be able to anticipate not just what the AI can do for us today, but what it can bring tomorrow. And we all know that the pace of change in this environment is incredibly rapid, so building a durable vision is critical. Finally, success requires us to shape the future by knowing where critical methods and differentiators must be preserved and where capabilities can be transformed. We're all navigating a fast-moving tech landscape while running complex, regulated businesses. The challenge isn't just in adopting new AI and digital tools, it's ensuring they enable our teams across the enterprise to drive responsible, compliant innovation for our patients. So for this reason, every AI initiative at MSD starts and ends with safety and compliance, ensuring that we meet or exceed our regulatory requirements and deliver on our own very high expectations for quality and patient outcomes. Ultimately, this moment in history is an opportunity to transform the lives of patients and communities, and we should all grab it with both hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anton, for those enlightening words. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us take a moment for a launch of the white paper titled Winning the Decade of Life Sciences and Healthcare GCC Growth in India. And to take this session forward, it is my privilege to invite the thought leader from Health Arc, a charismatic personality and a true example of perseverance. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Mr. Sudeep Krishna, President and co-founder of Health Arc, on stage to deliver his remarks.
Thank you, Sabrina. Good morning, everyone. We've seen a lot of stories come to life about the life sciences GCCs over the past many years, right? We've heard about how the GCC story is about talent arbitrage. We've heard about how GCCs are driving productivity and operational excellence across the world. We've also heard about how GCCs are powering innovation. The fact is that life sciences GCCs over the last many years have delivered exceptionally on a lot of these promises. Today, they're moving on to even greater heights. GCCs are driving data-driven market access, they are driving software-led therapeutics, and they are driving scientific leadership. And last but not the least, AI. We at Health Arc recently worked with a client GCC in India, where we used our AI platform, Curie, to deliver deliver greater productivity and enable faster regulatory filings. The interesting thing that happened was that this experiment was eventually adopted by the client's global regulatory organization, where this AI platform will now be used globally. This is one among many stories where GCCs in India are driving faster adoption of AI all across the world. Our white paper, Winning the Decade, covers these and many more inspirational examples of how GCCs in life sciences in India are driving the next decade of growth. So I would like to invite our esteemed colleagues Ritu Balia and Riya Doshi to join me on the stage, and would request our esteemed panel to unveil this white paper for the audience. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to unveil the white paper titled Winning the Decade of Life Sciences and Healthcare GCC Growth in India. And I humbly request all our dignitaries to do the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it? Thank you very much. And now I leave the stage to Dr. Purav Gandhi to take this discussion forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's very exciting times here. Growing up, I read a quote which said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. But I would say with GCCs, probably that is something that could change. I was talking to one of my colleagues that, in the past, if you had your headquarters in Boston, you would access different set of capabilities versus if you have your headquarters in Japan. But now with GCCs, it could be a level playing field. Everyone could get access to the same talent. Everyone could have the same force multiplier. And to talk about these experiences, today we have an excellent panel. We have people who are users of the GCCs, who are believers in GCCs, and people who have built GCCs. So welcome everyone. I'll start with the first question for Gail. Gail, you would be like a strong user of the Novartis GCC, which has been around for a while. In your role, how do you leverage a GCC, which is sitting all across the world in India, to improve customer experience and patient experience for patients sitting in the US? How has that worked for you over the years?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking and for having me here. I'm really excited to be here on the 25th anniversary of the Novartis GCC. We have over 9,000 colleagues here in Hyderabad. And I lead the commercial marketing organization in the US, and I am a collaborator with our GCCs. So we really see our relationship with the GCC as one united team. Specifically, I lead the marketing function, and we're building modern marketing capabilities rooted in behavior science and the science of behavior change. And in order to do that, we need to integrate across a number of different touch points. We all know the world has gotten more complicated. Those are physical, digital. They might be a congress. They might be an in-person conversation with a physician or a digital touch point, and now with a large language model with AEO and search. So in order to be successful, we've really had to integrate that stack, those tools, and how we all interoperate. So we work very closely with our GCC colleagues and are building some of those capabilities here exclusively in Hyderabad for use across the entire marketing organization in the US.
Right, perfect. I'll come next to you, Sanjay. Sanjay, unlike Novartis, Takeda's journey in terms of a GCC has been relatively recent, probably a couple of years now. What has the India GCC created in terms of impact for Takeda in this 2 years? Is it still building up, or has it already started moving the needle, started generating outcomes for you?
Yeah, Purav, thanks for the opportunity to be on the panel. Like as you mentioned, our journey in Takeda for our Innovation Capability Center, which is in Bengaluru, started just under 2 years ago. And the India ICC, as we call it, Innovation Capability Center, is part of our global network of ICCs. So we have one in Mexico City, we have in Slovakia, we have in China, Japan, smaller centers, and then India is our flagship center. And although the journey started a bit late, but we have scaled rapidly, and we are now close to what we were anticipating in terms of our a number of colleagues who will be part of our organization by March this year. And in the recent, I'd say, few months, we are seeing a higher degree of impact from the colleagues, because these were all net new colleagues we were brought into the organization. So one, they brought a lot of deep domain knowledge around technical skills, technology, data science, etc. But to bring them up to speed on the domain knowledge of the pharma industry, life sciences, working in a GXP environment, in a highly regulated industry, it required them to be more familiar with those control environments before they could start creating value. And now we're seeing teams that are working in pods, either in India or across the 5 network ICCs, building solutions, end-to-end solutions that are supporting R&D in terms of improving the throughput of our molecule discovery. We're seeing, similar to what Gail mentioned, we also have our colleagues that are working on supporting our medical reps with building solutions that are helping them with the next best action as and when they engage with healthcare professionals. We have teams that are working on AI solutions that are helping our finance organization in helping improve their throughput in transactional processing. So to me, AI is pretty much pervasive across the entire value chain, from R&D, manufacturing, quality, to our commercial organization as well as all of the support functions. And I think the hunger and the appetite from the organization to really do more and contribute more, and also with the strong purpose that we have of delivering lives transforming treatments to patients, really kind of builds that connection. So we're really seeing the high output now than what we saw in the early days.
Just one follow-up question, Sanjay. You've been in pharma world for a long time. In context of how things changed in the past, is this transformation considered fast, at par, slow? How would you characterize it?
I mean, I've been in the GCC space for almost 17 years now across multiple industries, but a large part in the pharma sector. I would say in the last 2 years, the pace and the speed and the velocity of what we are seeing is not what I saw in the past. So this is really at pace, and the scale of the organization that we set up is also something that I haven't seen. And when we started our journey in India, like I didn't imagine that we could hit the numbers that we were looking for in terms of building the scale and the demand that was coming from the business, but it's happened. So I think it's a whole different environment now than what we had several years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting. Syed, very similar background. Like you've also been building GCCs for what, 15, 20 years now. You announced the India R&D Center for Olympus a couple of years ago in Hyderabad. What's your experience been? How have you seen this space evolve? How would you characterize the evolution?
Thank you, Pura, for having me here. Clearly, we have seen in the last 15, 20 years the evolution of GCCs, right? From being a cost arbitrage, cost efficiency play, capability enhancement, to moving to what I call the true innovation hub. And for us at Olympus, which has a history of more than 100 years of innovative technologies, with majority of the R&Ds in Japan and in US and Europe, India offered that unique play. When we started out our journey, it was not just as a cost efficiency. We wanted it to be part of an innovation ecosystem. And that is what we see today, is not just capabilities for arbitrage tasks, but more importantly, how can we add value with all the ecosystem that we have here in Hyderabad, but also in India with the digital AI and so on and so forth. So I think this is a huge shift from 20 years ago to where we are today. Yeah.
And how would you characterize the last couple of years in terms of your journey in Hyderabad as Olympus?
So we are expanding. Initially, it started out as as an offshore development center, right? But now clearly into a captive GCC with our own associates here in Hyderabad. The evolution has been, again, not just in R&D to bring efficiency, but also partnering with local healthcare systems, right? We have one of the largest gastroenterology hospitals here in Hyderabad and elsewhere, but driving true clinical innovation, partnering with the physicians here. I think that's one piece of it. But also leveraging the ecosystem here for manufacturing, for supply chain. Just like Sanjay mentioned, we have a lot of regulatory folks who are supporting from here, from Hyderabad. So I think it's across the system, end to end. There's a partnership that I see happening here.
Yeah, glad to hear. Badri, you and I have been chatting about this, right? Like I was there coincidentally when the Novartis Center got inaugurated in Hyderabad. It seems almost like yesterday and yet ages ago how much the ecosystem has evolved. You have lived through that journey, not just in terms of the GCC in Hyderabad for Novartis, but also you would interact with many of these centers across the world. How would you characterize the ecosystem in Hyderabad? How would you compare it and contrast it to what you see across the world?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. Such a delight and a pleasure to be part of this panel. It's such a wide-ranging question. So first of all, I've got to say now, I'm not part of Novartis now, so this is my past life I'm going to be talking about, and I'm now in Unilabs. But to your question, I think if I had to put one thing, my finger on one thing, it's simply the quality of people and the passion of people. I think that's the one thing that has made the difference. Why do GCCs in India succeed so much differently and far out than perhaps GCC anywhere else in the world, at least in my experience. And I'll give you a simple example. When I go around the world and I talk to people, we have town halls and stuff like that. I get questions. The questions are typically, how long is my job going to last, or how's the company doing, etc. Then I come to India and I have town halls in India, and the questions I get are, what are we doing for patients? How are we improving access? How are we making medicines available to the people who need it the most? You see, the quality of interaction, the mindset, the passion, the purpose is completely different. And I think that simply has made the difference. There's just a hunger and a fight to want to say, we are the best. And you have to come here. And I think that is what has transformed this GCC from a, if you will, a task support to a task ownership to now actually full end-to-end ownership and intelligence. And so we've moved from augmentation, I think, clearly to an ownership era now.
Oh, that's a great example. Like, times have definitely changed, and it's happened very fast. Speaking of fast, Anton, I'm fascinated. Every company talks about AI. Merck has gone really far to demonstrate the commitment. You have the Chief AI Officer role, which really demonstrates the commitment to enterprise-wide transformation. Can you talk us through what's happening in the AI world, some of the recent trends, and how do you use that to drive an enterprise-wide transformation at Merck in a responsible, sustainable manner?
Yeah, great.
And it's a loaded question. I think I asked too many things, but I trust you will walk us through that.
It's all good. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this panel. So I think we're seeing more and more organizations identifying the need to put a focus on AI, and this Chief AI Officer role, again, is MSD's commitment to the importance of this technology. And so we're tackling it in a couple of ways. So there's a need to get broad awareness and adoption and understanding of this new technology. And so we've been very intentional about creating internal systems that are secure and safe and are boxed to our environment, but allow everybody in the company to experiment with the technology and learn about it and embrace it. And the ultimate goal of that is to allow people to replace the mundane work with AI capabilities. I mean, we've all seen how powerful these technologies can be. And so the ability to drive a broad awareness and adoption is kind of the start point. It's a foundational thing for us. But we fundamentally believe in the transformative ability or capabilities of AI across our value chain. So I talked a bit about the fact that we've been able to double the number of molecules in development. And we do that by investing in specific capabilities. We've built foundational models. We have one called TEDdy, which is a biological model that allows us to improve our target identification as part of the process. That's how we get more molecules into the discovery phase. We have other models that we've built that allow us to be more targeted in lead identification through the process. We're doing a lot of work with generative AI in clinical trials to work on the documents that are required for clinical trials that allow us to compress that. Some of the timelines have gone from multiple weeks just to a couple of days in getting documentation ready. And then also using the technology to work through the massive volumes of data that come out of clinical trials. So there are opportunities for us across the board, and part of what we're making sure that we focus on is capturing the broad opportunities, but making smart choices about where we really invest in capabilities with AI in our company that can truly transform our company and compress that timeline, get medicines to our patients faster.
Interesting times and significant transformation from what pharma was considered in the past as one of the slowest industries. Over to you. I distinctly remember last year, same time at BioAsia, launched the Amgen Center. 1 year into the journey, how would you characterize this journey? Was it as expected? Was it different from what you expected? Can you walk us through this? Because it's a very short time, and yet I think the Amgen Center has scaled so much.
Well, good morning, everybody. And it's fun to be with you all. Only negative thing is I have no history of GCC. I've been around in Amgen for 23 years. This was all new for me. And, Amgen India, we call it AIN, for us is a global office, just part of the one node of the Amgen network. But the promise for us was this hypothesis that we put the best talent, which Hyderabad is full of, by the way, infuse latest technology, which in my last 1 year, it exploded thanks to AI, generative AI agent, and it's going at a phenomenal speed. Cloud came up with a little model. Next thing you know, all the software companies' stock went down. So that's the speed at which AI is exploding. And then we in Amgen, are really, really good in science. So the question was, we get these people, technology, and science together, then can we make a measurable, meaningful difference in being able to serve more patients, in being able to make a dent in global healthcare? Well, good news, Hyderabad, I have to tell you, you got one of the best talents in the world. In our case, it's really exciting because we have big tech presence here, Microsoft, Google, Qualcomm, and then, as you know, and everybody has said since yesterday, Hyderabad probably makes 30-40% of the world's vaccines. So for us, getting both the pharma talent and the tech talent was absolutely magic. The other interesting thing we notice, while we scale AI responsibly and everything else, we are really, really moving from POC phase to what I call ROI. We're scaling fast solutions at a very, very fast speed, and boy, is it exciting.
So can you tell us some areas where it has created a real impact in terms of ROI for Amgen?
Well, I can't give you all my secrets, but there are a lot of functional improvements going on. Every function, as you all probably experienced, are doing AI. They're making incremental improvements. But the real magic is looking at end-to-end and making transformative benefits. We've been a year. The functional benefits we can see. It's now what are the big enterprise end-to-end process we want to do and what big enterprise impact we can generate with India and with the larger Amgen ecosystem. That's where the fun is. So while benefits are coming, the promise is beautiful.
That's it. Gail, I'll come back to you. I'm a physician. A lot of healthcare practitioners are AI skeptics. And in some sense, right, there is one big question that will AI kind of dilute the patient experience? Will we lose the human touch in healthcare? But in your case, how is AI creating a meaningful impact in terms of patient experience? What has been your experience so far?
Yeah, I think one of the areas we've been very focused on is on information discovery and AI search. And the reason is, particularly in the US healthcare market, patients have become more empowered to search out their own treatments and have discussions with doctors and bring things. The healthcare system in the US is very complicated, and patients need to be their own advocates. We also, at the same time, want to make sure that the information that we're sharing with patients is related to the information we're sharing with physicians so that there's a healthy dialogue. To bring it back to what we're doing here in Hyderabad, we're really looking at building the capability not just for AI search discovery, because it's significantly more than adding schema tags to a website. There's a lot you need to do with the content itself and really change the nature of the content. One of the capabilities we've been building in Hyderabad over the past 2 years, we've been on a journey to in-house core capabilities from our third-party vendors, because we believe we need to have closer control and ability to change at a very fast pace, and that will help us connect better with both patients and physicians. But the content engine that we're building is here in Hyderabad, and that's for use across the entire US business. And it's not a build it and throw it over the transom. It's part of the ecosystem. We're on the same MarTech stack. We're on a journey to integrate all the tools. As you can imagine, every organization was set up differently. We have different tool sets, different data sets. But as we harmonize that, and we'll be largely finished with that this year, we'll be able to see things flow through the system from not just the first touch with a patient, but back to analytics and optimization. So the vision is that end-to-end pull-through in the US market. And it's critical that our teams in Hyderabad are, it's not a throw it over the transom. They're part of that journey, and with the end-to-end accountability of bringing the pieces through. Just last week, we did a big promotion and campaign around prostate cancer awareness. We had an ad at the Super Bowl. And when you advertise at the Super Bowl at scale, 138 million, there was a message to go learn more information, go to a website, use that as an entry point to find out about early detection and prostate cancer screening in the US market. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. Obviously, we want to catch that earlier. And we had that set up here in Hyderabad, so we had real-time insights from what that experience was, from the broadcast through search, social insights, and we were actually available to develop content and post in real time. So all that is coming through the ecosystem here at in the GCCs, but here specifically in Hyderabad.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, right? You mentioned that the US healthcare system is complex, difficult to navigate. Sitting in India, how do you ensure that the team here not only understands the science of what you want to convey to the patients, but also the context of what you want to convey to the patient so that the information is useful with right guardrails, etc.?
It's an excellent question. I mean, that context, it comes as being part of an integrated team. So there's trainings, learnings, we're all learning together. It's not separate. So we all get those insights, have those debriefs, understand the system. Of course, many of our associates have lived in the US, and there's a lot of movement back and forth. But it's that shared, I say everything starts with a brief. Do we have a shared understanding of what outcome we're trying to drive? And increasingly, the work we do here in Hyderabad and with all our GCCs is attached to an outcome. It's not an activity. We need to raise awareness and actually have more screenings for prostate cancer in the U.S. And what role do we play individually and as a GCC in making sure that happens?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Sanjay, coming back to you. Today morning when we were chatting, you used a very interesting word, digital fluency. And you said that is what you found as you started accessing talent in India. Can you talk about that a little more? Like, how does that digital fluency help? What kind of AI-driven innovations has it influenced for Takeda in the recent past?
Yeah, so maybe a couple areas. So one, when I talked about digital fluency, I think earlier in Medaline in her session on Sanofi also kind of mentioned the same thing, that like how do we educate and get the entire organization, not just portions of the organization, and make them more digital or AI literate so they know how and where an AI or agentic solution can actually help them be more productive, more like efficient in the way they can do their work. So I think when we've looked at our talent within India or any of our ICC location, having that mindset around like AI, agentics, how it can actually help augment the way I do my work, also helps kind of create that incubator within the organization to come up with these ideas that actually helps them like bind to this mindset of like AI is not going to replace what I'm doing, but actually make me work smarter and not harder. And through that, so one example that we are doing within my organization is because my team's focus is primarily around building data, digital technology related solutions across the value chain. And it's like, how do we become more productive? So we've looked at one process that we have is like software development lifecycle. And we looked at end-to-end the process saying all the personas that are involved in the process. And for each of those personas, what are the tasks that they're performing? And within that task, which tasks are ripe for agentification, right? And then scaling, so building those solutions and then scaling it within that persona But just scaling within that persona doesn't kind of solve the problem or deliver the value. It's also what adjacent roles you need to create to ensure that those agents continue to perform at a level you expect them to perform, but they need to be trained. They need to be adopted. And adoption at times, like, as we've seen in the past with RPA, robotic process automation, it comes in and then people stop using it. So for this to really stick, that adoption needs to be there.
Yeah.
So you need to also create these adjacent capabilities that complement the agents you are enabling, rolling out within a function. So that's an example of how we're looking at it. Again, it's early days. We're doing step by step to make sure that we learn from each deployment across a persona set, learn from it, improve, then go to the next persona so we can get that stickiness of the value that we're trying to create.
And if I may ask, what is the degree of stickiness that you are finding so far in some of the use cases you have done?
So, if I look at within like R&D, right? So in R&D, we are looking at AI native approach. So it's not putting AI on top of an existing process, but how do we get more AI native? So from the get-go, reimagine the process with AI embedded in the right places, and obviously with human in the loop, because in the industry we operate in, making sure that the human in the loop at the end is still there to start off, given the regulatory elements as well as GXP. But that's an area that we are applying, similar to what Gail mentioned. I think the commercial space, there's lots of opportunities, like content creation being one, is how do we own that? Campaign management is another example where, again, typically companies have used third parties to do campaign management, but now with some of the enterprise platforms we've got for CRM, we can actually run those campaign managements in a more targeted, customized manner for specific kind of target audience or segments within the healthcare professional kind of sector.
When we talk about AI, one thing which no conversation is complete without is data. So I want to come to you, Anton. 130 plus years of data, that's what you would have inherited at Merck.
Yep.
How is AI helping you use that data better? And you mentioned you have doubled the pipeline, but what is the data that you have? It must be huge, and how do you go through it using AI in a purposeful way?
Yeah, this is actually one of the most exciting things for me about this revolution that we've seen with generative and agentic AI, is that this is an opportunity for us to convert what we believe is our data advantage into an information advantage. Part of what I was addressing earlier, we're building a semantic layer, which is essentially just a master map, a brain for our enterprise to understand where all our data is, what is the relevance of the data, so that researchers in different parts of our organization can get access to information that historically has been much harder to get access to. And the one thing that we're seeing is as these model providers give us models that have more and more context, it's easy to get lazy and just throw a whole bunch of information into the context window. But it's really important that you provide information-dense context to these models for them to be really effective. So part of what we're trying to build with this semantic layer is a way for us to not only access all of that information, but serve it to our models in a way that allows them to really provide those insights.
And this is a bit of a nerd question, but historically, 10 years ago when I started working in this space, 90% of job was data cleaning, 10% was data science or programming. Has that changed now in any manner, or it's still the same?
Well, it's definitely changed. The ability for these models to use unstructured data has shifted the focus a lot from trying to create really clean, structured data, filling in any gaps and working on things like data imbalance and still issues with challenges like bias in the data. But the work we have to do in unstructured data is different. The cleaning is a little bit different than what it looked like in the old days of focus on structured data. But also we use agents to help us get through the process of getting the data ready for other agents that are going to actually do the interpretation of it. So Yeah, it is significantly changed. And again, we look at AI as a talent multiplier. So the ability of data scientists to, instead of getting bogged down in the mundane work of prepping the data for the models, they can work with agents that allow them to get through a lot more analysis.
Badri, I want to come back to you. We were talking about AI in our previous conversation, and in some sense, we were talking that whether to use AI or not in certain use cases. Is it an and or question in your mind, or do you think there's no choice and now you have to embrace AI, not only at an organization level, but also at an individual level? How do you see that?
The fact that AI will be used in pretty much every aspect of our life is, I think, a given. I mean, I think we all see it. I don't think anybody writes a Word document today without actually calling in a co-pilot or something like that. But exactly how you use it and the way you integrate it, especially in a large organization to deliver scalable results, I think is critical. Past solutions, I think, were seen as part of a toolbox. And AI is now seen as a teammate, not a toolbox. And I think that's a pretty big difference. So if you look at it as a toolbox, then it's a set of tools you can use or not use or whatever. But if you see it as a teammate, it actually enhances your capabilities, it augments your capabilities, and perhaps it even allows you to deliver your capabilities at higher quality, more impact, more scale, etc. So that's how we see it. We see that when we deploy AI, the way you integrate it into the workflow is actually more important than sometimes the model itself. The foundation models today, we find, at least in clinical applications, are plentiful. You can get a lot of models, and a lot of people are developing a lot of models. But to maximize the impact and minimize the issues with that, the integration matters. So where is AI really good and where is humans really good? So you can't get AI, at least today, to solve edge cases. Humans are still really good at that. You can't get AI to actually have an emotional integrative response, at least today, in a clinical application. You can get humans to do it, but you can get AI to have scalable, fatigue-free performance pretty much round the year, round the clock, right? That integration, I think, means that it's an and, not an or, so to speak.
Makes sense. I go back to my pediatrician. So anyone who's young kids, right, you bother your pediatricians significantly. So our pediatrician made a rule that in any particular sitting, you can ask up to 30 questions. And after that, you have to come back next day. But AI would not get tired. It would continue to answer questions. And at Unilabs, probably amongst all of us, you are the closest to patients. As you use AI, have you seen applications where you use AI to interact with patients with the right guardrails on?
Exactly, absolutely. So we use a lot of AI in image-based diagnostics in Unilabs. And the way that we use it is both before and after a physician or a radiologist looks at it or a pathologist looks at it. And it helps us understand whether the diagnostics is complete. So when we go to the patient, there is a diagnosis that happens, but the context of the patient matters. So with the AI enabled and with the physician interacting with the patient, suddenly this becomes a lot more powerful. For example, you have a lesion on a skin. The location of the lesion matters. What the patient did yesterday before the lesion appeared and what were their lifestyle matters. AI will give us a judgment, which is a base judgment, and the clinician then uses that as a starting point for the interaction, which is much more robust than in the previous days of I'm just going to go naive or de novo and have an examination of the patient. So that's why that interaction becomes really powerful.
And that's a significant deviation from what we were used to in the past, but now it's become the new normal. Sid, I want to come to you, right? Olympus is a very deep engineering organization, rich history of engineering. Now AI is taking over. How do you kind of create an AI-ready organization, an AI-ready workforce as you look at the future for Olympus?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's, as you rightly said, we have a rich history of innovation, but it has been for the last, 70 odd years, marrying optics and precision mechanics, right? That's where we invented the first endoscope. And Gil talked about prostate cancer. The cancers across the board are increasing, whether it's gastric, colon cancer, or esophageal cancer. And Olympus has been basically using optical diagnosis, right? Basically, these are mechanical devices. Now, imagine this, over the last 70 years, you have collected a lot of data. How can you help the clinicians use that data and precisely diagnose some of these cancers, lesions, like we said earlier, much earlier than they become more potent? So I think that's one of the areas where we have been developing these clinical solutions. But going back to your question, how do we enable our workforce to use AI? I think that's a very important aspect of our thinking in the last few years. What we have been doing is significantly bringing in what you call AI native or digital native teams. In fact, we had our very first chief digital officer a couple of years ago to bring in this swarm of new digital enabled technologies and digital enabled people into our organization, right? So I think we're going away from AI as a tool to AI which is embedded in our process. So basically reimagining our legacy with AI is what we're calling it, right? We have a very rich legacy, but how do we reimagine that with AI and with data? I think that's our process that we've enabled.
And when you say, right, like I think part of it is bringing in individuals with AI knowledge, but part of it is also kind of ensuring that your existing team, which brings in all the legacy knowledge and context, also starts becoming a user of AI. Do you see adoption challenges there? What is the degree of challenge? How do you overcome that?
Clearly there are challenges. I'm not one to shy away from the fact that, yes, when we have 50 years of pure non-digital ecosystem, how do we transform that and bring it to this, let's just say, the digital native ecosystem? There are challenges. But I think what's unique here is that we have to, I really liked what Madeline presented this morning about how we can have these snippets. I think the word she used was snackable AI, right? That's interesting because you have these bytes which are, quote unquote, democratizing AI for everyday user, for everyday engineer. And you don't have to be the experts at AI for all of us, don't have to be. So I think that's what we are doing is by democratizing AI and the usage, building in processes where they are embedded in the day-to-day. I'll give you one good example. In the medtech industry, developing a new product, I would argue that 40 to 50% of the time an engineer spends is in documentation and testing, right? How can we use AI to automate this process? The documentation, the testing, the verification and validation. That's where we are deploying a lot of that activity. And another one is where we have, over years, tens of millions of videos, right, of the GI tract. That's rich data sitting in there to say, how can you utilize that to say, what's the best tech device or a best solution that can be deployed to have more effective clinical solution? I think there are various aspects to this, but I think that's the key. The key is how do we bring in snackable AI for everyday user, but also super specialized AI for the clinicians.
Makes sense, makes sense. I think, like you said, it also starts with that question in mind. If every day, if all your team members ask that question themselves, the answer is in front of them and they will find it. I want to come to you, Som. Som, all your peers who spoke, it's very easy for them to say they are users of a capability center, but you have been a builder for the capability center. What are some of the challenges you've seen in terms of meeting these expectations as you build a capability center? In some sense, you build an ecosystem as well, right?
You know, it's not fair to get asked the last question because all of you have great examples. And I'm supposed to top that. How is that possible? You heard yesterday, you know, I don't know if some of you were present, our chief scientific officer had a good keynote speech saying how technology is basically changing the way we do science, right? We're not using AI as a tool. AI will fundamentally change the way we do our business. I'll give an old example. When electricity was first invented, it took 2 decades because the existing factories were running on steam and they were trying to use these electricity machines in the middle of their assembly lines. It didn't work. For them, there was no cost, time, benefit. However, when the entire factories got rewired with electricity, that's when the real impact of electricity happened. Now, I'm not saying AI is going to do a 2-decade journey. I don't think we have that. But it's going to rewire the way we do business. And, corporations, look, you saw Sanofi, I'm sure every one of us are doing it both ways. You take some big end-to-end areas process from the corporate and they work on it, but it's a ground-up operation because you cannot democratize. You cannot have every employee become an owner of your company if they don't get to play with the latest tools and technologies in their day-to-day work. So it's simple. First thing is process. You have to reimagine the process with the latest technology. Second, like you said, was data. You were talking about semantic layer, but it's getting the data in a place where it's findable, it's interoperable, it's accessible, it's repeatable. So you're not spending in like your old days, gunk on chasing data and cleaning it for one particular app. It has to be reusable across multiple models and multiple functions. And the last but not the least, at least my experience here in this last year in India, we have data scientists, we have computational biologists, we have data engineers, we have real-world evidence people. They are so quick in learning the new tools and technologies that I depend more on the young kids to tell me how to think about it because I'm too old to learn as fast as they do. So I think it's democratization is happening. The question is, what is the organization going to set the right priorities to unleash the power? And I think it goes through process, data, then technology comes. So the fundamentals haven't changed, but the ability to get even data into semantic layer using multi-agents is huge. One cleans up the data, one verifies the data. And then speed. AI is about speed. It should not be about cost. Because when you improve processes, cost is just a byproduct. So it's exciting times, and I don't know what to say. Like electricity, AI is here. It's going to change the way we do things, and there is no doubt about it.
Well, so you did top all examples, even though you went last. But I want to follow up this with one more question. So, you are in the Hyderabad ecosystem. You see that while everyone understands the importance of AI, the value of building capability centers in India to unleash the power of that, in some sense, there is a limited talent pool. The infrastructure also needs to keep up. As an ecosystem builder or a part of the ecosystem, what do the next 2-3 years look like? What should be our priorities?
I see no problem with talent in Hyderabad. And I know this is a very common parlance of GCC Capability Center, but we're just another Amgen office. What's fun about our office is we have all functions and tech at the same place. So the collaboration between the function, the process people, the tech people are all happening here. And so it speeds up collaboration and innovation. So that is the speed and the things. But for me, what would success look like in the next 2-3 years is a fascinating question. We were talking about a year or two ago that this is the hinge moment when technology and biology are coming together to accelerate innovation. Now we forget the hinge moment. We're in the area of exponentiality. You can hear about convergence of information, convergence of innovation. Everything is speeding up. Obviously, old people like me have a hard time changing the way I have always trained to do work. I still have a pen and a piece of paper to think. So the society the old ways of doing work. There's a little change management function here to see how we can adopt and socially, culturally embed it that everybody gets there. That's a journey. It's not going to happen too quickly. But success for me is Amgen India, along with its companies, maybe AI plus human accelerates innovation, accelerates, makes new discoveries, finds new insights. At the end of the day, to make a difference in people's lives, and at the end of the day, to make a dent in the way we all collectively serve, human beings. So that's the test. In the next 2-3 years, can we make a dent at an enterprise level, at a global health level? Now, that would be awesome.
Well, there are many questions I have in my mind, but I think I got the sign.
Yeah, it says sign 3 minutes and 55 seconds.
Before we conclude this discussion, right, I want to go back to each of you and say, like, if you have to, and today, like in the morning, Medaline said, right, patients are waiting and we have to move fast. That is the purpose why all of us are here. In this era, if there is one thing that you are most excited about, what would that be? All of you can mention it one by one as a concluding thought. That would be wonderful.
For me, it's access, expanded access. These tools allow not just us to bring more to market, but allow more patients to experience our services and our products, and hopefully lead healthier lives. So for me, it's access.
For me, it'll be how do we leverage technology that's available, be it AI or machine learning or whatever, and leverage that to bring life-transforming treatments to patients or people that need it the most. How can we reduce the cycle time, especially in our industry?
Yeah, to me, it's similar to what Sanjay said. It's how can we expedite the time to market and bring these solutions again to the patients and have a bigger impact, right? Access to care, especially across the world, globally, where we can bring this sustainable solutions, but faster. And so that to me is the key for these technologies.
So the way I look at it is the only difference that matters is the difference to the patients. At the end of the day, all of this is meaningless if it makes no difference to the patient. So AI plus humans is way more powerful than AI or humans. So how do we put AI plus humans together to increase the impact for the patients?
So yeah, I'll echo what everybody has said, right? This is about the patients. Speed is important, but for me, what I'm really excited about is the potential for these models and the underlying technologies for us to really expand the targets that we go after and bring more cures to more diseases.
Okay, I only have speed. Speed to serve more patients, speed to innovate faster, speed to get data accessible faster, speed to insights. I think it's all about speed. And technology is going at an exponential speed. Can we, large organizations and society, embrace them at this speed technology is taking place? But I think next decade is going to be exciting, but I guarantee we'll serve more patients and find more medicines. So, it's wonderful to be in this ecosystem at this time with such a huge technological revolution taking place.
Well, that's so true. Like, I think speed, the ability to get to patients, and for most of us, what we thought we might not be able to achieve in our lifetime now is possible and right in front of us. So with that, I'd like to thank Gail, all of you gentlemen, for sharing your insights, being here, taking your time. Thank you, BioAsia team, for such a wonderful platform. And we'll conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that insightful discussion. And let us give it up to our panelists and moderators. Thank you very much, sir. for sharing their expertise. Now, to express our gratitude, may I invite our session sponsor, Ms. Shrestha Ananta, Associate Director and Head of Clinical and RWE Practice, Health ARC, to please join us on stage. We want few moments from you so that we can present a memento. And I would also request Mr. Sarvesh Singh, Telangana Life Sciences, Government of Telangana, to please join us on stage. Director of Telangana Life Sciences, Government of Telangana. I request them to please do the honors of presenting a memento to our panelists. And oh, you could have come from the front. No problem. Please, Chen. I once again take this opportunity to thank our panelists to make this discussion more engaging. I request Ms. Shrestha to please join in for a photo op. Let us capture this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, let us thank our moderator and our panelists with a huge round of applause. Thank you very much. Yes, the only reason I'm telling you all to clap again and again because I really want to know whether everyone are attentively listening. Yes, thank you. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen, now moving forward to the next panel with the topic Making It Matter, how GCCs transform capability into end patient impact. This session intends to showcase the impact and outcomes enabled by healthcare GCCs on what matters, the end patient. GCC capabilities have evolved greatly over the years. The KPMG will enable conversations with senior healthcare leaders to understand the far-reaching impact of healthcare GCCs. Now, during this session, KPMG will also release a white paper curating key patient impact narratives from select healthcare GCC organizations. Now, before we begin the panel discussion, let us take a moment over here for the launch of white paper titled Making It Matter, How GCCs Transform Capability into End Patient Impact. It is my privilege to invite on stage our thought leader from KPMG, Mr. Karthik Ramakrishnan, partner in life science and healthcare GCC sector head, to please join me on stage to deliver his remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I humbly request you all to take your seats so that we can proceed with the session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for joining us today. Yesterday's fantastic CEO Conclave panel had one of the key takeaways that I took away was that India's cost leadership is proven, and now it's time to get to capability leadership. And that belief in the context of GCCs sits at the heart of our paper that we're releasing today. The paper talks about how GCCs positively impact the lives of end patients. Today, the most advanced healthcare and life sciences GCCs are no longer downstream delivery engines. They're becoming global platforms for innovation, decision-making, and outcome ownership. We see GCCs today making multiple contributions, ranging from shaping discovery pipelines, designing medical equipment, owning regulatory initiatives, building digital health platforms, and increasingly co-owning product and patient outcomes. This is not a future aspiration, this is happening right now. And what differentiates the GCCs that truly matter? There are three things. First, they sit at the core of the value chain, not at the edges. Second, they fuse deep domain expertise with digital data and AI capabilities. And third, and this is critical, they make visible impact. Impact measured in earlier access to therapies, in safer and faster clinical trials, in resilient supply chains, in better patient experiences and outcomes. We have a total of 7 contributions, and I must say we are hoping to make this a year-on-year cadence of reports that we'll release every year, because every year we expect more impact to come through, to shine through rather, from the ecosystem. But this time, we have a total of 7 contributions that describe this impact in detail, from Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, Becton Dickinson, and Alcon, with really impactful narratives on their end patient impact. I want to acknowledge the people behind this work. It, of course, reflects contributions from many colleagues across KPMG in India. I'd also like to thank our partners at Unearth Insight, our collaborators for this paper, the state government of Telangana, and especially Mr. Shakti Nagappan for his support and encouragement. And most importantly, I'd like to thank the industry leaders and GCC teams who shared their experiences so openly. Your collaboration is what makes this ecosystem unique and distinctive. And thank you very much for that. And I'll end where I began. The next phase of healthcare GCC evolution will not be defined by cost advantage and headcount alone. It'll be defined by capability, accountability, and measurable patient impact. The question for every leader in this room is no longer whether GCCs matter, but whether they're truly designed to make a difference and make it matter. Thank you. I hope you enjoy reading the paper. You will find the QR code up front soon. The upcoming panel that we have organized, moderated by my colleague partner Shalini, has inspiring narratives mentioned by the GCC leaders themselves, and I hope you will find it interesting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karthik, for your valuable remarks. And now may I invite the following dignitaries on stage to please join us to kindly unveil the white paper. Joining Mr. Karthik would be, I would humbly request Ms. Shalini Pillai, the partner at KPMG and India leader GCC, to please join us on stage. I would request Mr. Shakti Nagappan, the Director, CEO of Telangana Life Sciences, Government of Telangana, to please join us on stage. I would request Mr. Sarvesh Singh, Director Designate, the Telangana Life Sciences, to please join us. I would also request Mr. Gaurav Vasu, CEO and co-founder of Unearth IQ, to join us, along with Mr. Shail Maniar, co-founder of Unearth IQ, to please join us on stage. I request Mr. Chakravarti, AVPS, Senior Vice President National, Chairman Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, to please join us on stage to do the honors. And I would also request our guests who have contributed in this white paper, Mr. Senthil N. from Alcon, Dr. Anand Jain, Vice President, Product and Portfolio Strategy, Novo Nordisk, to join us. Mr. Manish Arora, Associate Vice President and General Manager, Eli Lilly Services, along with Mr. Srinivas Peddi, Senior Director and Center Head, Beckton Dickinson Technology Campus. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have the presence of our dignitaries to do the honors, let us inaugurate the white paper through an AV. So can we have the AV playing, please? Thank you very much, and thank you, dignitaries, to do the honors. And now we dive into the panel discussion of Making It Matter, how GCCs transform capability into end patient impact. We do have the presence of our moderator, Ms. Shalini Pillai, and also the presence of our panelists, Dr. Anand Jain, Mr. Manish Arora, and Mr. Srinivas Petty. Thank you so much for being over here. Joining this set of panelists, I would also request Ms. Sivakumar, Managing Director and Head of Global Innovation and Technology Center, AstraZeneca, to please join us on stage. I would request Ms. Isha Juneja, the Digital Head of MEEA, Opella Healthcare, to please join us. And Mr. Mahesh Natarajan, Senior Director, Thermo Fisher Scientific, to please join us this panel so that we can begin our discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
A very warm welcome to everyone here and good afternoon. A pleasure to be here and thank you to all my panelists. Looking forward to a very engaging conversation. For the audience, when you have two back-to-back GCC panels and two back-to-back GCC papers being launched, it is clearly a sign of the significance of this model and the impact it's making to global healthcare and life sciences as a sector, as an industry. Before we dive into the panel, and if I was to just connect a few dots and set the context here, can't help but talk a little about some of the headwinds that the global healthcare industry is actually reeling from. Let's look at what we're talking about. We have an aging population with lifespan increasing. You do have globally a shrinking healthcare professional pool. You do have pricing that's becoming really critical and challenging for healthcare players, compounded by the fact that you actually have global corridors and borders that have made it really challenging. The days of when you could actually increase prices in one part of the world and let that happily stay isolated has gone. So how do you compete in that kind of a pricing market? Regulators are getting harder, regulations are getting stricter. In all of that context, there's also supply chains that have become challenging to manage, and COVID saw some real challenges emerge. And in all of this, what we have before us today is technology as an underpinning lever that's going to help us innovate and take this industry to another level. From an end patient perspective, and that's what we're going to talk about, because the expectations have been increasing. Firstly, we are all talking about making healthcare more affordable, more accessible, and that's going to be the moot point. How are we going to do that leveraging technology is really what we've been hearing about over yesterday and conversations today, with AI being at the core of it. The previous panel had some great examples, and the focus of our conversation here is going to be bringing more examples to you about how is the GCC world enabling this. As a caveat, we use GCCs as a terminology that is well understood by the industry. The truth is, many of my panelists represent organizations that have run research and development centers and core research from India long before the GCC term even came about. But today, GCCs represent global capabilities that global organizations are building out of India and taking advantage of the significant demographic dividend, the deep digital talent pool that India has to offer. So how is this model enabling it? You heard some examples. We're going to talk about it across the value chain. Karthik referred to elements of a discussion paper that we just released. It's the first of many, and we would like to keep adding addendums to it as players in the industry contribute and share more about what they're doing in this space. So with that backdrop, I'm going to kind of start with a very open question. And this is really to extract examples from my panelists here, to get them talking about, in this day and age of evolution, of very rapidly paced technology, given what you've already established in the country today, how are you seeing the evolution in your organization, and bring this alive with examples of what we're doing? To start with, maybe we'll just go in the order, and also to pay heed to the fact that from a vintage perspective, Anand, your organization has been around the longest, 19 plus years, I think. So help bring this alive for our audience with examples of the impact you all are making.
Yes, Shalini, we were just discussing before the panel that amongst this, Novo Nordisk is the veteran GCC, and we don't have Novartis, of course, but we are in Bangalore, and as of now, we are not in Hyderabad, so we are only in Bangalore since 2007. Our evolution, remember then, was almost 2 decades back. We didn't have anyone but Novartis. So the start for us was very tentative, honestly. And we, since yesterday, are looking at Amgen or Sanofi and so many other GCCs. Within a year or two that they have done so many functions and so big numbers. That was not how it was with us. We started extremely transactional. We started with something like finance, something like data management in a very small niche, and we were just tentative. How to grow further, how to progress further. Slowly and gradually, because at that time, quite a lot of clinical trial setup was being set up in India through CROs and so on, that helped us gaining the confidence, and we moved further, we expanded further. The inflection point came wherein we had our senior leadership then from headquarters coming over and seeing us and looking at the talent pool that they have seen, and when the other companies and CROs, how they are setting up their functions, not GCCs though, the decision was taken to expand and take some leap jump. And we started some of the functions besides data management. Statistics grew. We started a very small pharmacovigilance, medical affairs, and that helped because that could actually give a lot of strategic leverage. We were not seen ourselves as transactional. The whole focus of the senior leadership was to not get into something which is called as support, which is called as transactional. And that mindset helped us getting more confidence, and we grew very fast. So around mid-10s to 2010s and so on, that was a time when we had almost many new functions set up. So by 2018, we had almost all functions across all EVP areas established in Bangalore. Today, we are a full-fledged, all-functional setup GCC. We call it as GBS, with more than 17 functions across all EVP areas. And the beauty of this setup is that the functional anchoring is through the functional lines in headquarters or operations, wherever it is. And that gives a lot of functional goals or KPIs for us. So we are across therapy areas now. We own the global processes. We own the global operations. And thus we are actually partnering as strategic partners across the areas in R&D as well as commercial and so on.
Thank you, Anand. And I think you very eloquently summarized the evolution, which is probably common among many others, as we will hear, talking about. But couple of key things, and we heard it before. Impact is going to be driven by business context, and the core of what each of you as pharmaceutical companies, as consumer health companies, as equipment providers, players in the healthcare space, at the core of what you're trying to impact from an inpatient perspective. The end-to-end opportunity is what makes it unique and puts GCCs in this very unique vantage point. And as we build on that, Shiva, I'm going to come to you to get your take on, building from there. How are you seeing your capability hub here and what they've delivered, and what is that looking like?
Yeah, that's great. So fantastic. Thank you for that. I think in terms of evolution, a very similar story. So I would say there are like three phases: the services, then the capabilities, and then now we are in the third phase of outcomes, right? Which is basically how do you assemble these capabilities to create real outcomes for patients or for the organization. So I think it's really a time where the theme that you have here for the report is really resonating very well within the organization, which is how do you impact your end patient, which is, I think, a very interesting question. A lot of what we do in a biopharmaceutical company doesn't directly touch the patient, but it builds up a lot of the capital and the value towards that. But when you do have these small examples, few examples here and there that actually directly touch the patients, it ignites kind of electric current amongst our people, right? Because they can actually see what they do and how that's actually impacting our patients. So I want to talk about a couple of examples of what we have done. So I think yesterday there was a lot of discussion about cell and gene therapy, and we are also as a company getting into that space, right? And we are running clinical trials. And the GCC in India was a nerve center of how to set up the entire data, technology, AI, and supply chain around that particular new modality. So it required complete rethinking. So we were pretty much a make-to-stock organization, right? Basically, we produce inventory and then we sell. Whereas this is a complete different process. It's like in the SAP environment, we first clicked the transaction called make-to-order now, after 25 years, 30 years. But then it's just one piece of it, but it's really the whole chain of custody, chain of identity. How do you integrate all of these applications? How do you retain the data? So our people got involved very heavily, a small team involved in that, along with our partners who are also co-located. So that really helped people to see, how what they do is connecting to a patient who is going to potentially be cured of cancer, right? So that's the sort of power that these stories have when you talk about end patients. Another interesting experience that we had is we set up the global COE for virtual and augmented reality here in India, as well as digital twin. And one of the things, the questions that came to us is how do you develop empathy for patients amongst our sales force? And how do you actually prepare our patients, so going into clinical trials, who might be actually quite tense about that whole thing? How do you give them an experience beforehand of what that might be? So our COE here developed experiences which are actually, like for example, a patient enrolling in a cancer trial. What is that trial going to look like? You can actually visualize that beforehand. Where do you go? How does that center look like? What happens? And then also monitoring them beyond that point, right, of when they're home and so on. So those solutions are, I think, really kind of illustrating the possibilities of the GCCs. You can assemble all these capabilities that you built over the years, which might be data, digital, AI, supply chain capabilities, R&D, into solutions now that are actually creating outcomes for the entire enterprise. And that's kind of the journey that we are just starting, I think, as a GCC. And we look forward to, really doing more and more. And not everything needs to touch the patient, but it could be about how do you actually create outcomes from all the deep capabilities that we currently have in the GCC. And that does require a different mindset, which is not just that we are another office where everybody sits and works in the global organization. That's a really good analogy, but don't let that analogy go too far, which is to say they need to talk to each other here in the GCC. They need to work together. They need to collaborate. And if you're still functionally siloed, that's not going to happen. So that's kind of I think the next kind of barriers we need to break in that evolution.
Some great examples there, and you touched upon two very different aspects of how it's impacting customer. One is at one level with core cell and gene therapy, very targeted treatments that are being researched out of here. And increasingly healthcare is going to be about customized treatment. So patients are expecting it, and that is the future. And at another level, through VR kind of technology to be able to also educate and create awareness with the patient pool is magical, right? For them to be able to see and take away what may have seemed like an opaque process, but they can relate to what they're going through, I think it's phenomenal. So thank you for that. One other piece that I thought you touched upon very well was the ecosystem, and we'll talk a little about it, I'm sure, because today GCCs are not about doing it yourself. Leveraging the talent, not just within your center, but with academia, with startups, that's what's creating the magic. And I know we're going to talk about some examples as we go through. But let me come to you, Manish. Firstly, thank you. I know you've contributed to our paper too, with some very phenomenal examples of what at the core research stages, how you all are actually driving impact, crunching very, very valuable and expensive cycle time. Talk to us a little about whether those or other examples of some of the magic you all are weaving here.
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for all of you for joining as well, and for the opportunity to contribute to the white paper. So, you know, at the core of what we do at Lilly is we're a medicine company. So we are, I would say, in many ways obsessed with the patient. So what we do is try to reach patients, more patients faster. And if we could accomplish that, our job is well done. So an example of what we've done recently is, if you look at a clinical outcome assessment process, this is a very laborious, very manual process, and it takes weeks and weeks and weeks to get studies enabled. And so what we did was we assembled some of the brightest people across, first of all, our Bengaluru site, which has grown over the last 10 years from, I would say, GCC 1.0 to GCC 2.5, not necessarily 3 yet. We're all evolving in that direction. But so I also resonated with what the Minister, Sridhar Babu, said yesterday, saying the shift from GCT to GVC is really like what we're also about. So going back to Bengaluru, the team there, phenomenal team there, they partnered to look at the end-to-end clinical outcome assessment process. And they looked at that and said, what part of this process can we simplify or eliminate? What steps can we eliminate? They went through a little bit of a house cleaning hygiene effort. Then they said, okay, now if we look at this end-to-end, what are the value steps that are needed? How do we get the best process with the best outcome in mind? And then they automated it. They applied AI, and they started to automate that process. And it reduced the cycle time from anywhere from up to 30 weeks to 6 weeks. And they celebrated for a second, but then they said 6 weeks is still not good enough. And they have additional programs in place to get that down even further, because ultimately, the more trials you can do, the more patients you can get to, the better outcomes you receive. So satisfied with 6 weeks, but we like 6 days more.
Wow. It's amazing, and we're going to come back to the question on what does the future hold, because with the pace at what technology is enabling, I can only imagine where that's going to go going forward. But some phenomenal stuff, and I know we've not spoken about numbers, but they're quite mind-boggling if you look at the research value chain. So the impact and being able to take from discovery to therapy and making that, you know, expedited, I think that's some phenomenal examples there. Thank you so much, Manish. In fact, one of the beauty of this industry is many of you compete in similar markets, and yet the GCC horizontal brings us all together on a common stage to talk about and learn from one another about what we're doing, and I think that makes this really unique, actually. In fact, I'm going to come to you, Mahesh, to give us your take and your examples. In fact, both your organizations have grabbed a lot of attention with some of the new medicines out there and what it's doing to the world. I think for the longest time in the blood sugar space, we saw a certain, for the whole decade, we kind of saw things at a certain pace, and suddenly it has transformed. So I know it's, for lay consumers also, you'll have grabbed some attention. But coming to the GCC, tell us a little about what you're getting, what you're seeing delivered from your center.
Thank you, Shalini. Thank you. So
you may want to just...
Okay. So, you know, to provide the context, we work on building equipments, instruments, assays that are used by all our customers who are in the panel here and in the room in bringing solutions for in patients, right? And talking about the evolution that we have had for the GCC itself, we started our journey similar to what others were talking about, in a very transactional basis, making sure everything is about execution excellence. We focused on making sure there is knowledge that is built, we are able to deliver to what is expected, and which in turn were the founding blocks that allowed us to gain the trust for what is happening. The next phase of our journey kind of transitioned into building capabilities across multiple COEs, very similar to what Shiva was talking about as well, where we had capabilities built across different COEs that were taking us to end-to-end responsibility on each of the function. So the metrics for us changed from talking about how are we delivering on time, are we delivering first pass yield, from those conversations going towards are we making sure that our customer orders are fulfilled on time, are we facilitating with product cost reduction or new product developments. So functionally we were contributing in more so. And as we transition to the next phase of the journey for us, that has been more around how do we increase the impact. Now that we have built the capabilities, we have the credibility and trust that is built, and we understand the functions end to end. We are looking at how we contribute towards new product revenue for the corporate. How are we working towards end-to-end execution of projects. And in this phase of transition for us, one of the things that happened is within the organization, we had these silos of different COEs, right? We may be in India, but we operate within the each functions by its own expectations. Now we have kind of broken the silos where we work with each other more actively, unlocking newer value that comes to our customers. Yeah. So 2 examples that I would touch on. One from a regulatory space where one of the equipments that we were going to launch in the global markets, typically as it comes to different countries, you talked about the headwinds that are faced in the industry. Regulatory is one of those headwinds which continues to emerge quite heavily across geographies. So the team here, understanding the workflow, understanding the complete sequence of what is required, while they were building up the documentation for country A, they were able to automate quite heavily for few other countries, bringing in parts of AI coming in, activities that used to take 6 months being condensed to 1 month, and being able to move faster. So that's one accomplishment that we could bring in because there were more than one COE that could work in parallel. We also had an experience in the recent past of understanding a user requirement that is very unique for the region. And we had to build a proof of concept, which we had to take a physical product in front of the customer. A conventional cycle for us would have taken 12 months in building it. But because of the evolution of what you mentioned, the ecosystem, right? So if you take in Hyderabad right now, many of you would know about T-Hub, which is a place where quite a lot of startups are incubated. Adjacent to it is another institute called T-Works, which is a maker space for building equipments, instruments and like. And this is something which is a unique infrastructure that is very essential if you are building equipments, instruments in country, because without infrastructure like this, you are dependent on importing many of things or going to people who are not used to doing prototypes for you, or you should build a huge capex investment in. So this ecosystem kind of enabled us to build prototypes fairly in short order. And we could bring it across a product that could be put in front of customers, which allowed us to gain their confidence. So I would say the evolution for us has been twofold, right? One, cultural, where the team is not talking about what is my deliverable anymore. They are talking about what kind of impact am I contributing to. And the metrics are all towards that for us. The second for us is primarily around looking at how are we able to navigate the conversation for the whole corporate, right? How are we contributing in terms of setting up the strategy? How are we contributing for the impact? So those are two things that I would say which has evolved for us.
Great examples. If you look at the world of instrumentation, you've touched upon changes there, the criticality of the ecosystem working with them, and to be able to correct and innovate real time, right, by getting actual patient feedback, working with players to look at tweaks that need to be made, which is so essential. Looking at the GCC world, there are many industries which actually tend to be very far away from their ultimate customer. You have the advantage of being able to test your products and tweak and innovate here. Thank you for those. I'm going to move to you, Isha, in a slightly unique space, I would say, from a consumer healthcare perspective. Also the youngest among the GCC group here, around just about a year since you all set up. And if we look at the future of pharmaceutical life sciences, everyone wants to ultimately make it easy for the consumer. So tell us a little more about what is some of the stuff you are already doing and planning to do to actually enable your global organization.
Sure, thank you. Am I audible? Yeah?
Yes.
So thank you for having me here, first of all. So you were talking about, and my co-panelists were also talking about the evolution. I think for us, the evolution is more than the operating model. It's an evolution about the accountability and responsibility that sits with us now in Hyderabad. The accountability of getting to the consumer faster, the accountability of getting to the consumer at the right place at the right time. And this is, as you are saying, a very specific domain. We are the third largest in the OTC and VMS space, which is a very good category to be in, but the penetration, there is a lot of opportunity that we have. So a lot of this is something that we are driving from the hub. So our mission is around revolutionizing the overall self-care. How do we get to the consumer faster? How do we engage with the consumer more? So the question is no more for us on our operating costs. The question is more on how we are creating the impact for the organization. How we are getting the clinical intelligence, how we are getting the consumer engagement. And that to me is where the story becomes very powerful, because we are to get to engage with the user, with the consumer. How do we do that? How do we understand the consumer? How do we answer their question, and how are we more available for them? So there's a lot that we are trying to build as an ecosystem, as the other GCCs are. So a lot of the consumer content creation is something that we are internalizing in our hub. We are going to support that, and that's the process we have already taken. A lot of the e-commerce is something that we drive from our hub here, because we want to get that insight faster. So it is something that we do, we are already scaling that up. A lot of the supply chain analytics and supply chain is being run through the hub. The overall the data analytics and cybersecurity, which are very niche areas, is something that we are building the capability in the hub. So the entire idea is how do we have that end-to-end ecosystem enabled so that we are more agile, we are faster, we are close to the consumer, we listen, and then we deliver to them. So that's how, and we are, of course, rightly poised to be at the intersection of pharma and consumer health. So that also gives us a unique opportunity, I would say, to scale up and deliver more in the category.
There couldn't be a better opportunity to make more direct impact than that, right?
Yes.
Because, and customers and consumers are getting more and more demanding. With so much available at one's fingertips, it's scary what sometimes research can throw up, and you're tracking that and making it easier. So the access part of it is really important. Thank you for that, Isha. Srini, last not the least, but I'm going to come to you to tell us a little about some of the wonders you all are doing. And I know you all have a large ecosystem play as well. You have a significant part of some of your BUs that get supported from what you do out of here. And in a fairly short span of about 6-7 years, right? So that's quite phenomenal. Tell us a little more, Srini.
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me here. I think when we started off, I think it is primarily like any GCC goes, it is about establishing the trust and getting the right talent who can really think, strategically. And the way we were modeled is to make sure in India for global. So primarily impacting all the global programs, and also to make sure that our associates eventually take the global roles in strategic decision making. So we started off with hiring the right talent and then establishing a lot of infrastructure for testing, like the testing labs. We have pretty advanced labs. Very recently, we also inaugurated several labs for software testing. And then the third piece that is there, what we are trying to leverage is about collaborations. So primarily what we are looking at is having three major pillars. One is connect, innovate, and then third is elevate. In the connect, we want to really connect with the India's complete ecosystem. GCCs, like, if you have a single line with the global headquarters, probably that's not sufficient today. So we need to look at the roots of the GCC within the ecosystem. So the way we are establishing this is, if you were to look at the medical sector overall and the way individual institutes or the hospitals are moving forward, it's pretty fragmented. If you were to look at the government of India, they have defined center of excellences for certain medical institutes as medical hubs. We are not even aware of it, right? We start from there. And then now we are establishing all these strategic collaborations such that with the academia, we are very strong. The second thing is we also want to make sure, to connect with the ecosystem, we want to make sure our team understands the end patient. So we have a lot of clinical immersion programs that we have started, where hundreds of our associates are going through that. And then the third is about not only academia, hospitals, but also the research laboratories that we have. So we are also leveraging, some of the testing laboratories that we have, so that we don't re-innovate things, and then which can become a win-win for the entire ecosystem. So those are some of the paths that we are taking, and that's where we are seeing the light, as we move forward.
I think you just exemplified what pulls us together, because what we're calling GCCs is really the technical nerve center that works with this ecosystem to really drive outcomes. And we keep talking about the GCC evolution. Where is this headed? I think the next wave is going to get completely techno-functional. The deeper domain knowledge is what's going to drive this. So I compliment BioAsia on what we have set up here today, because it's going to be increasingly sectoral conversations. It's not about generic GCC as a horizontal, but getting to how you're driving and making the impact. So thank you to all of you. I'm conscious of time. We have 15 minutes and we're going to go again around, but maybe we will start from you, Srini, and we'll quickly talk a little about, given the evolution, given the impact you're already making, given what we heard, and the audience has heard some great examples from between the previous panel and this, what does the future hold? What do you see as the road ahead? So if you picture yourself sitting here 2 years from now, what do you think you're going to be talking about? What are you working on?
Sure. So one is from the tech standpoint, as we are all aware, and it's pretty clear about the artificial intelligence and machine learning and the advances of the medtech. So the way we are looking at it is like the devices for care is moving towards healthcare ecosystems. So BD has, for example, millions of devices that are installed in the hospitals. Now, how do these devices talk to each other, and how do we make sure that there is a decision-making capability across the ecosystem? So the way we are looking at, and as an organization, we have formed a complete new segment called Connected Care, where all the devices speak with each other. And we have launched BD Incada, for example, as a software, where we can provide clinical outcomes, better clinical outcomes, by connecting this data, and also which will help the infusion, the dispensing, the pharma automation, because these products are extremely strong by their own, but now as an ecosystem, how do they add value and also build a lot of, reduce the medication errors for the hospitals? I think this is the area from a tech standpoint. From a campus standpoint, we are also making sure that our associates are upskilled into this area. So we have, we have several tie-ups with our institutes, and where our associates are getting upskilled. and we do encourage a lot of that so that they are up with the request with the time, and that way there is a beautiful collaboration or an overlap with where we want to move as an organization, but at the same time our associates competencies are also needing to be changed with time, and
Super.
that is
Yeah.
something we are conscious about.
Super, thank you. And I'll summarize after we're all done, but thank you for that. Isha, over to you.
So if you ask me about the future, I see the future for us as more of a strategic partner in the organization, an elevation, and a presence from across the value chain in the GCCs. I see us as at the intersection of processes, the technology, as you were saying, techno-functional, and a very good pipeline of talent. I see the leadership evolving from GCCs. I also very, very firmly believe that the competitive advantage that we have here is the talent. And that's the moat for us. And I have a very, very positive overview on India and GCCs being the nucleus of it in the future. So of course, there are headwinds, as you were saying, but I am very positive that we will overcome, and we always overcome.
Of course.
And so we will overcome, and that will work in our benefit in the future. So I have a very positive outlook about the center and overall ecosystem in general.
And all the best. You're young in the journey and with a very promising roadmap ahead. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Mahesh, please.
So as we look for ourselves, right, we are in the region which is the most happening region. Too many actions that happens. Globally, when you look at it, it may not be that exciting, but India has lots going. We have enabling policy that is coming in from ANSR and like, which we are not greatly leveraging at this point, but we have an opportunity to go leverage. From the vantage point of where we are looking at few things to happen. One, we are looking at the AI digital edge convergence to come in real sense, and this center enabling that to happen. Not adapting a technology that is created somewhere, but contributing in to strengthen it, build it, and contribute it back. Many of the use cases that we want to put to practice, our customers are very, very keen to take it up.
Yeah.
Right? The adoption rate in India for emerging technologies is far higher. So that makes it far more accommodative. We also have the advantage of the GCCs that you talked about, right? Think about this panel, think about folks in this room.
Yes.
We have reach for our major customers within Hyderabad when I'm located or in Bangalore. Draw a 2 square mile radius.
Correct.
You can talk to your top 10 customers in 4 of your sectors.
So true.
In terms of what's happening. Come to my supply chain, top 4 in 10 are within the vicinity. So we had a chip shortage, we could talk to someone within India and they were able to tell what is the next best alternative in no time. So that's what is coming in for us as part of the ecosystem. And the opportunity that it gives for us is being able to innovate faster, being able to produce end products, much more faster to the market.
That's awesome, and that's what the patient pool is waiting for as well.
Absolutely. And as we do this, one other thing that we are also realizing and coming in is concurrent development, right? Historically, we are used to developing, you first do the hardware and then the software and then get the chemicals reagents, test it out, start the loop again. Now we are in super concurrent development phase with digital twin and beyond. And all those convergences are making things, come faster for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, thank you. I think you summed it up well. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Manish, your quick, what does the future look like for you all?
Yeah, so if somebody used to ask me what the next 3 years looks like, I don't know. I think tech is evolving so fast, you don't know what the next year is going to look like. What we do know, what we are, is we're a very integrated part of the overall Lilly ecosystem. We don't think about ourselves as a location, we think about ourselves as capabilities we bring to bear to support Lilly in its mission of making life better for people around the world. We have, as you know, we have the Bengaluru Center, which has been around for 10 years. And Bengaluru in itself has its own advantages of being, have gone through the evolution. In Hyderabad, it's a rich ecosystem of life sciences and tech, which is really pretty encouraging for us as a company. Now the question is, how do we bring both these centers together and work together in synergy so we can complement one another, again, as an integrated part of our overall ecosystem. And of course, tech will change, and the responsibility of each of us is to be able to change along with tech, right? So.
You touched upon an interesting topic which we've not so far spoken of, which is from a location perspective, but the strengths, and we were talking about it, pretty much no conference goes without the Bangalore, Hyderabad conversation, but unique strengths and advantages, and more importantly, how the ecosystem's coming together, and great to see players take advantage of both and what locations offer really. But thank you for that. And yes, looking 10 years out, I don't think any of us can do. It's what the next 3 to 4 years is going to change for this model. Thanks, Manish. Yes, Shiva.
Yes, so yeah, I would say a couple of things, right? If you look a little bit ahead. So one thing I feel is that over the last 20 years, 25 years, we have really focused a lot more on office-based processes in the GCC, like, back office, IT, data, and now with the technology where it is going with the digital twin capabilities, intelligence that's built in, we can actually look at non-office, actual physical processes, right? Because a lot of it's getting virtualized. So we are looking at autonomous factories by 2030. And modeling those factories, simulating the flows, being able to even run them remotely from a GCC is not that far off, right? That we can look at. So that's one big thing. The second one is talent. I think we need to completely relook at the way talent is in the GCCs. The work will get done very differently. We will have not technology and business separately, right? We will be looking at people who are in the business doing whatever they're doing with algorithmic literacy, so to speak. They have the tools, the AI with them, and they're doing the work. And how do we enable that kind of work versus, building things that we think will last 10 years or 20 years, right? So that's the whole reconfiguration of the workforce is another thing that we need thinking of. And the third is kind of a big wish, which I think was referred to a little bit before here. Yesterday we heard that 80% of the world today doesn't have the kind of access to cure and access to medicines and healthcare that the rich world has. And we have here GCCs from payers, providers, pharma companies, and we have a market right here in India, which is very similar to a lot of the rest of the world, which doesn't have that much of access. So can we come together to really solve this problem, right, as a community? And then maybe that model could be exported to many other countries around the world which don't have. So that's kind of a big wish, but these are things I think we should look at. I think
No, those are great examples because digital twinning is already live in many other industries. Who have created digital twins for their plants and are managing it out of here. I think the life sciences healthcare space will also get there. It's a matter of time. All of you have touched upon skilling, which is great to see because without which this model ain't going very far. So it's really, really critical. But thank you for that. And yes, Anand, your thoughts?
Coming last is always difficult, Shalini. I'll not repeat what has been already said by the panelists. Look, we have come to a stage wherein we are already, so to say, value enabler.
Yes.
Wherein I told you that we already own end-to-end processes. We focus quite a lot on productivity. We are, so to say, working across the value chain, so we are strategic partners. Right from the early research and development to all the way to post-launch life cycle management as well. What we see for mid to long term for us is going from something like value enabler, you mentioned GVC, so something like GVC to even elevated growth engine. What I mean of growth engine is really have connected business outcomes, have an enterprise mindset, embed so much into the organization, whether it is headquarters or operations, that we are acting as one team, and then our outcomes are embedded to achieve our goals, which means that we'll, of course, require tech, we'll drive innovation, but we will be strong partners to the growth engine. And that is actually coming to the patient impact, because that will relate ourselves to the patient.
And it is already happening. Many of you have already actually given examples of how you're making that impact, and that scale is, we call it another jargon and a term, but innovation velocity is really increasing, which is really taking it from ideation to scale as rapidly, and we're seeing that happen across multiple industries. As I sum up a few points that I've heard, I'm going to let you all chew on one rapid fire question I'm going to ask you. We've spoken about the very, very bullish prognosis and how great we're all doing. I'd like you all to share one word of what are you going to watch out for. If there's one risk, if there's one thing that we need to watch out for, what might it be? So think about it, one word, rapid fire. But you just heard this panel connect dots around what is it going to take to actually improve end patient affordability, access through many examples. Today sitting here is a certain segment of the healthcare life sciences industry. We've not covered the payer-provider model, and deliberately. Perhaps the next edition will also bring in the wider value chain. It's a very vast value chain, but we hope to cover that slowly. We've spoken about a bunch of things, from connected care to making consumer impact, to actually looking at working with the ecosystem, to looking at working across the value chain, digital twins and what IoT might bring to this industry. And in all of this, you've all spoken about a very deliberate focus on upskilling, and I'm so glad to hear that, because talent is a big challenge as we look to continue this GCC gold rush, if we may call it that, and deliver outcome. If you don't carry the talent with you, we're going to have a problem on hand sooner than we realize. So thank you again for all those inputs, but let's quickly go with this rapid fire and your thoughts on what do we need to watch out for as we work to create even greater end patient impact. Yes?
Should I start?
Yes,
this
please.
time? I would strongly recommend, with all the experiences that we have got working together, collaboration is key. So we should watch for working in silos.
Okay,
and
thank
should
you.
be avoiding that.
Thank you.
I would say AI, both the promise of it, but also perhaps the unrealistic expectations that might get created, right? So we have to watch both sides of AI.
Great point. Don't fall into the AI FOMO trap.
Yeah.
Be deliberate about what we're doing. Yes. Yes, Manish.
I would say the watch out would be complacency.
Yeah, good point. We can't bask on our laurels. We've got to look at what's ahead. Thank you. Yes, Mahesh.
Making sure that we are able to adapt into
Yeah.
what AI has to offer, and that's where I would ask to watch out for.
Absolutely. In fact, AI is quite a theme. We've not spoken much about it. Lots of it in the market as we speak. Delhi is seeing a lot of AI-driven conversations, but how can we be deliberate, watch out for, have the right guardrails? Absolutely. Yes, Isha.
Yeah, I would say the right talent. We have a demographic dividend in our favor, but without productivity, it can be a liability.
Yes.
So we have to be very, very cautious about how we leverage, because this is the time, and it's one in a century that we have the demographic dividend in our favor. So talent is something we need to look at. How do we have it upskilled, reskilled to get to the fast pace of technology? So that is
Absolutely. And with techno-functional domain requiring it, how do you skill your medically professional kind of talent to actually leverage technology? Absolutely key. Thank you. Yes, Srini.
Apart from all that is mentioned, I would say the disease state.
Sorry?
The disease state, what kind of diseases are emerging, and, are
true.
we, in sync with those?
Yes.
So, and then of course, the technology and the talent and all of this will go ahead with that.
True. I can only say with all the innovation you all are driving, we're hoping we'll all be in good hands as you anticipate some of what life might have in store. But thank you so much. I'm conscious of time. We're up on time. Really appreciate all of your inputs and look forward to continuing conversations and building on what more we can do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check. Thank you very much. That was a fascinating discussion. A very big thank you to our esteemed panelists and our moderator. Please let us capture this moment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to an end of our first half of the day, and we will now break for lunch and networking. We invite you to explore the exhibition area, connect with industry leaders, and enjoy a delightful meal. Please, I would request you all to be back at 2:15 p.m. as we have an exciting lineup of Power Pack panel discussion awaiting for you. So please do enjoy your meal, and we will reconvene shortly for our next exciting session. Thank you very much.